here I am. I'm back at the Cactus and Succulent Society of New South Wales Show and Sales Day, and I'm so excited. I'm going to give you guys a full walk around of all these amazing show plants, but not just that. I'm also going to take you to where the vendors are lurking and show you some of the incredible plants that are for sale, and I'll top it off. I'll even show you at the end of the video the plants that I'm taking home today, because I'll tell you what, I just couldn't resist. Normally I've got a no-buy policy, but here the plants are too good not to bring a whole pile of things back. So anyway, stick around and let's check out the amazing stuff going on at the show today. There are just so many plants here. They stretch as far as the eye can see. So amazing. It's like, how do you start? Where do you pick a plant to start with? So I thought I'm going to start with the plant that I left off the last time I was here. I'm not going to linger on it, but it's just a starting point because I don't know what else to do. Going from this cool Gymnocalycium manitsii, we move straight into the Mammillaria category. And the really fantastic thing about Mammillarias here in Australia right now is that it's springtime, and that means that it's Mammillaria flowering season. Have a look at these. Now the fantastic thing about your Mammillarias and how they flower, and it's typified if I come over here and have a look at this Mammillaria spinosissima, is that your Mammillaria flowering pattern is typically a crown that encircles the head of the plant. You can see it here, these bold magentas, or even on this Mammillaria gloccodata that emerge from slightly older tissue. And the visual impact is really quite remarkable. Wow, you can really see it in action here on this very old plant. Amazing. However, it would be neglectful of me to visit the Mammillarias and not highlight this beautiful little miniature here. This is your Mammillaria Perez de la Rosa, subspecies Andersoniana. And what makes this so interesting is that it has these straight spines, atypical of the species. I just think the colour of them, with that white tufted hair, spines emerging through it, is just one of the most beautiful things you can imagine. A really remarkable plant. Now we come around to the Ferrocactus, Echinocactus and Leuchtenbergia section, and there are some amazing plants here. We're still just looking at novice plants. That doesn't preclude them from having some genuinely massive specimens. Have a look at this. You can see in amongst it all the flower buds just forming. An amazing floral display that'll be coming up on this plant very soon. But perhaps more interesting, this fire barrel, Ferrocactus gracilis. Have a look at the colour of the new growth. Those red spines, almost a deep burgundy. Really quite stunning, and deservedly the first prize getter amongst some very interesting plants. Like, look at this, some monstrose thing. That's really fantastic. I love the way that those spines are emerging in, I don't know, almost like crested areoles. That's just bizarre. And of course, being spring and flowers being quite abundant, this place is just popping with colour right now. This is the only entrant into the epiphytic cactus category in the novices, but it's a well-deserved winner, because have a look at that. It is a grafted Hatiora gatneri. I don't know my tropical epiphytic cacti all that well, but what I do know is that they can have some pretty remarkable flowers. And have a look at the boldness of those reds. Amazing. But I also want to draw your attention to another flowering plant just nearby. This is an Echinocerius. Have a look at this. The plant form itself is spectacular enough. These long stems just emerging from that central point. But have a look at the delicate nature of the pink flowers. This is a plant to behold. I'm kind of surprised that it didn't win first place. It lost out to this absolute monster, which is almost in bloom. Not quite there, but massive plant. That's the size of my fist, just for the sake of comparison. Absolutely amazing. Now we come to the Echinopsis category in the novices, and here we can find the first of my plants. My Trichocereus talhuyacensis, three-headed thing, took out third prize. Very, very exciting. Now you might be wondering, why on earth have I entered a Trichocereus into the Echinopsis category? Well, I don't want to get too deep into controversies, but your Trichocereus for many, many years were included as an Echinopsis. Lately they've been split back out into their own separate genus. As a result, you do find that some people call them all sorts of different things. Like this Trichocereus passicana here, these days I believe goes by a completely different genus name altogether. And then here we've got a Labivia ferox, longispina. So the nomenclature, the naming pattern of your Echinopsis plants, it's an absolute disaster. And so the end result is you just find a whole bunch of different things all together. And here we are at the Copiopoa novice section. Really beautiful plants. Copiopoa hypergaia, a Copiopoa echinoides, a little Copiopoa cinerescens. First prize went to this fantastic plant, but highly commended. That's me, Copiopoa hypergaia, a little one. I was kind of phoning it in bringing that one. It's a beautiful plant, but it's not very big. But I have tried to stage it nicely, so I'm glad that that was recognised. There are some beautiful astrophytums here. Astrophytum asterius. This is a super cabuto form. And then you've got a variegated form. Some big, some small. And now this is the Ariocarpus. This is Ariocarpus retusus. What a fantastic, massive plant this is. Deserved winner. And the only other entrant in this category was a plant that may be familiar to Aridzine viewers. My little tiny Ariocarpus cotubianus, habitat staged in some hectic clay. Get a load of that clay. All cracking in the summer. Fantastic. The plant's starting to swell up now, and it's really starting to add to its character. Not just the plant itself, but the staging. When I planted it like this, in the video I did on this plant months ago, I talked about how I view it as a living artwork, always changing, and you can just see even from that video to now, there's been noticeable transformations. Now I'm a massive fan of mutant and monstrose cacti, and it seems so too are the punters, because there's a huge number of them have been entered into the novice category. Some of them are amazing. Look at this. This is a Monvilia spegazzini, crested form. In its normal form, it's a pretty bland columnar cacti, but when it gets crested, have a look at those coral-like forms. Cactus, which is kind of almost like a furry version of the same. Here's another crested Cactus, just different coloured. But once again, I'm going to direct your attention to my little effort here. Mammillaria boccasana Fred, staged, I believe, quite tastefully in a beautiful skull pot. The intent, of course, to have those cauliflower green, I don't know, rubbery bits. Have a look at that. I feel confident in touching this because I own it. It's all rubbery, squishy, oozing almost brain-like out of the top of the skull. Very tasteful, And not a prize winner today, but certainly at least 2 people have regarded this as the People's Champion. What an honour. Now, I did a video on agaves not all too long ago, and I spoke about a couple of agaves that are quite amazing, and it's really nice to see one of them in the flesh here. Agave utahensis eborospina. Have a look at this. Absolute stunner. And look at the length of the spines on each of those leaves. Absolutely amazing. Still quite a small young plant. It's got fantastically vicious teeth on it as well. And then also in that video I mentioned the cultivar white rhino, and here you can see one again. It's another small one. Got a lot of room to grow this plant, but the colour of the variegation, that almost milky white, it defies anything else, because you can see it's amongst some other variegated agaves which are all spectacular in their own right. But, you know, it's all a bit same when you see green and yellow, and then you see this thing here, and it's amazingly bold. Right next to the agaves are the aloes, and although they look quite similar, they're not even closely, or not even slightly related. But amongst these beautiful flowering aloes is a plant close to my heart. This here is my very own Aloe castelloniae, and look at that, it's won first prize, probably aided by the amazing pot that it's in and the little tuft of flowers emerging from it. Beautiful plants. They grow on the cliffs in Madagascar, and they actually grow pendulous. They're like a vine almost that hangs off the rocks, hanging down off these rock faces. An amazing and very unique aloe, and of course they've got these amazing red spines, teeth along the leaf margins, but also in the interior of the leaves as well. Stunning. Now, it's a little bit sad, there's only one plant in the non-cortex forming asclepiad category. I love asclepiads, but have a look at this. This is your Ceropegia stapeliformis, and have a look at how that plant is growing. Described here as a black dragon tail. It's amazing. So naturally, being the only plant in the category, it's won first prize, but quite deservedly got plenty of little beans to signify people's champions. So amazing, amazing plant. Now, I know people enjoy echeverias, and I'm learning to love them too. A lot of these plants here don't stand out to me as being completely remarkable, but this little thing, I don't know what it is, that I find quite interesting. Look at those little stems. Beautiful, beautiful colours as well. And then, speaking of echeverias, this one is called a Monroe's Orange. Clearly a cultivar, very cleverly bred, but the mix of that sort of white powdery farina on the leaves combined with the pinkish coloured leaves, it's almost like it's glowing. I mean, I don't know how well it comes across on the video, but compared to everything else in this category, it's really something else. But then there's big echeverias. Have a look at these. Fantastic warty growths on the leaves. I love this sort. As I delve ever deeper into the world of echeverias, these are the sorts of things that make me go, wow. They're just stunning. The colours, the contrast in the deep burgundy older leaves against that lighter interior, the greens, the blues, and then of course, just the massive chunky leaves on them. It's off this planet. Now, we're in the sedum category, and sedums are fairly similar to your typical crassulas, as you can see. Easy grown, soft leaf things. And then here's this thing, sedum frutescens, which is essentially a pachycol tree sedum. It's remarkable. It's not like anything else in the category. I mean, have a look at this. Have a look at what it's competing against. There are all these cute little tufted leaves and beautiful little pebble-like leaves and gorgeous little flowering things. And then there's this monstrosity just lurking over the back. Now, I'm told that these things are deciduous, like many of your cordiciform plants. And so unlike any of the other sedums here, this thing will just be like a wonderful sticky stump over the winter time. And it's just got peeling bark. It almost looks more like a bursera than a sedum. It's, I don't know. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy plant. And before I leave the world of the Crassulaceae, at least in the novice category, I want to just pause and appreciate a couple of Dudleyas. Now, this one here, this is a Dudleyas, just not exactly sure what species it is. Now, your Dudleyas typically come from the west coast of the Americas. And the thing that makes them amazing and stands them apart, I suppose, from your Echeverias is the really, really thick white farina that grows on them. This one, you can see it, quite remarkable. And there's another one over here, much, much older. And you can just see in the middle of those rosettes, the development of a powdery, thick farina that is just off the charts. Absolutely amazing plants. But it's not the Crassulaceae that grabbed my attention more than anything in this world. It is, of course, clumping euphorbias. Many of these come from southern Africa, and they are genuinely beautiful plants. I have a plant entered into this category. Didn't win a prize. No, it did win a prize. Wow, that's got my name on it. It did win a prize. Second prize. Euphorbia buplerifolia. This is a nice old plant. I'd say I've had this plant for 7 or 8 years. You can see it's got two smaller heads emerging out of the base, and I thought I was fairly tasteful in choosing a pot that somewhat mimicked the banding patterns on it. But let's have a look at some of the other euphorbias here. Euphorbia inermis, one of these medusoid euphorbias. There's a whole bunch of them in this category. Have a look, here's another one. Euphorbia, this is just labeled Euphorbia medusa. Don't know what species precisely it is. You have a whole bunch of Euphorbia flanaganii, in these instances crested. And then here is your more typical growth form of Euphorbia flanaganii. Really quite beautiful, but it just goes to show the diversity in the world of euphorbias. I mean, hold it up against this Millii from Madagascar, or your clumping Abdelkuri from the Indian Ocean, or even you've got hybrids like Cocklebur Pineapple Head or Bioensis, and it just becomes so obvious that the euphorbias are one of the most joyfully diverse categories of plants on Earth. We've got Haworthias doing some amazing things. Here's my Haworthia truncata habitat staged. Pretty happy with how that one came up. But have a look at some of these huge clumps of Haworthias. Must be very, very old indeed. Now we're in the Haworthiopsis and Tulista category, where you're going to find your hard-leafed euphorbias. And clearly it is flowering season. You can see what are the fairly unremarkable flower stalks of many of your Haworthias. Clearly a family of plants that has grown for their leaves and not their flowers. Still amazing though. But of course the part of the cactus show that most captures my heart are the cordiciform plants, your cordex plants. And here we see cordex plants in a pot up to 100 millimeters. And wow, what's that? That's another first prize to Aridzine for this cool Impatiens tuberosa in a pot made by a guy in America called Packy's Pots. He goes under the name on Instagram and the like. Really cool pots, so look him up if you like him. Pretty happy with how that one turned out. I only staged it up yesterday and here we are, a prize winner. But there are some beautiful cordiciform plants here. I'll keep going along. Cordex plants from the euphorbias. Look at this, this is a Euphorbia hediatoides. There's a couple of them in this category, but the roots on this one clearly exemplify what's possible when you raise them up above the soil line with an older plant. We've also got some more cordiciform plants here, and this is a fantastic example of a Phocea edulis. Phociaria species, don't know what that is exactly. And a huge Gerodanthus macrorhizis, member of the Cucurbitaceae family. But what I think is really interesting here is the any succulents not mentioned category, in particular this absolute stunner. It's a bromeliad. The species name of it is currently escaping me, but isn't that one of the most heavy metal, vicious, gnarly, monstrous looking things you've ever seen in your life? Absolutely amazing. And the size of the dish that it's in, evidently they don't grow particularly deep roots. Remarkable. It's this little Menanthes. I don't know anything about Menanthes, but they're very cute. Really amazing. And the way this one's just filled up its pot space. What a delightful specimen. If you're enjoying the show, please, I implore you, first of all, hit like and hit subscribe. It helps the channel so much. Then go to aridzine.com.au and there you will find sick merch like the Scary Pachypodium t-shirt and of course a link to the Patreon, which is really going off at the moment. There are bonus videos every week and most importantly, a thriving little community of plant-obsessed freaks who are all chatting and sharing pictures of their plants and having a great old time. So anyway, let's get back to the show. And we transition now into the silver tablecloth tables, which denotes that this is the opens category. Typically your more experienced growers, or certainly those that have been in the society for much longer. And why not transition straight into the any succulent not previously mentioned category of your opens, starting off with a plant that I've never seen in the flesh before, but this is cool. This is a Serraria namaquensis, related to your common Portulacaria afra, but the colours, the tiny little succulent leaves, all the rest of it speaks to something really quite unique. And excitingly, it's next to the Cordex plant, not previously mentioned category, where we've got some real beauties. Have a look at this, Cadrostris leiloa. You can see the vining form of these plants here. Petapentia natalensis over there. How's this? A beautiful Adenia Kirkii. Those naturally variegated leaves are something to behold. Have a look at this. You've got Adenia globosa. Now, I can only get an image of the Cordex through this tangle of spiny vines. You can imagine the protective power of those things in habitat. What an amazing plant. What an amazing plant. And that Cordex will only continue to fatten up with time. Genuinely amazing. And of course, unsurprisingly, there are some stunning Pachypodiums here. You can see the first prize winning Pachypodium namaquensis, which is just coming into flower as it goes dormant. So you've got that mix of leaves dying back, but flower buds emerging from the top. And then have a look at this. It doesn't have a species label on it, but it's a huge and beautifully grown plant. Absolutely amazing. But this one here is in flower. And you can see, just looking at those yellow flowers, you can see the relationship between your Pachypodium and a plumeria. Really, really starkly evident when you see those flowers in bloom. As ever, the lithops category is amazing. I don't want to linger too long because some of these plants do look a little bit familiar. So instead I want to focus on this one, a Gyroderma pearsonii. Now, I'm hoping that the footage is capturing just how shiny the leaves on this plant are. They look like two little split eggs emerging from a pot. They're amazing. They are, of course, related to lithops, but they aren't lithops themselves. Just incredible. And then, speaking of lithops relatives, here we can see conophytums, and you've just got these mounds, absolutely amazing mounded things, like a little cushion of delicate little heads. Look at this, Conophytum pearsonii. Really, really remarkable. Now, you saw my second prize winning Euphorbia buplerifolia. Have a look at this monster. It's at least twice as tall. Doesn't have any heads coming out of the base though. Wonder if they've been removed, or if indeed this plant has just put all of its energy into growing vertical. Either way, beautiful plant, well deserving its second place. And some other really cool plants. Have a look at this. This is Euphorbia schoenlandii. Has these huge spines that grow, peduncles they are. When these plants get older, they look really, really vicious. Really vicious. It's amazing the way that these plants evolve to protect themselves. Of course, the experts growing these echeverias just grow them into monstrous size. Look at that. It's like a sculpture. A terrible, warty, almost cancerous looking sculpture. Hard to capture just the bizarre and wonderful beauty of a plant like this. Have a look at those leaves. Have a look at the colours. Amazing. And of course, smaller ones, even smaller one. But even the colour of something like this, I don't know what this is, and it is in flower. Have a look at this. You go up all the way up to the top here, and there are your little delicate flowers. But the colour of the plant leaves themselves are just absolutely stunning. Ah, here we are. Now we're in the opens category of Slepiads. And here's a plant that I love, Larileachia cactiformis. Just such a gnarly, warty looking thing. That name cactiformis, of course, reflects the fact that it looks, but is certainly not related to, it looks like a cactus in its growth, which is, I suppose, quite similar to Yehudias. This one is a hybrid, according to the label. Looks very much like Yehudia macrantha, which I'm growing in my own greenhouse. And of course, Yehudias will get these fantastic, massive, stinky flowers on them. Absolutely amazing. And I have no idea what this is, but you can see this one is indeed flowering. Beautiful. Now, since the last time I was at the show, I fell in love with Cactus, and this, I believe, I suspect, is the plant that made me fall in love with them. But then, have a look at some of these other ones, like Cactus nigilans. This is an absolute monster of a plant. Enormous. And it's got those same amazing wavy ribs, spine to buggery. I love it. And then here, you want to talk about ribs and tubercles. This is a Cactus hexaedrophoros. Amazing. And you can see just emerging the little flower bud about to pop. Not quite as big and spectacular as its peers, but the species itself is quite remarkable. Now, your Melocactus, noted for those amazing cephaliums, quite evident here. Have a look at this. Melocactus anestii. The cephalium as tall as the plant body itself. You can see also there are a few here that are just starting to develop them. Now, of course, your cephalium, if you're not aware, is a reproductive organ. Quite prominent on your Melocactus, but it does exist in other species. And essentially, it is an organ from which flowers emerge and fruit develop. Quite a unique and very, very different approach to your typical cactus flowering. As with all things, you get to the opens category, And the plants are just bigger and bolder. Have a look at the size of some of these Mammillarias. Mammillaria carnea, for example, it's enormous. Interestingly enough, there are a few of them here in flower. Here's one that's doing quite well. And this one here, what's the name tag say? Mammillaria carmenae. The contrast of those white flowers against the yellow spines is something else. Really stunning plant. And of course the Copiopoas are as stunning as ever. I'll show you some of the little ones. I mean, I'm talking about Copiopoa cinereas here that are just in contrast small, because have a look at this. This is a Copiopoa dealbata subspecies carazalensis, and it dwarfs everything behind it. It's an absolute beast. One of the most amazing Copiopoas I've ever seen in cultivation. Have a look at those spines as well. Deathly black. What a remarkable and stunning plant. And then have a look at this, Ariocarpus retusus brevituberculus. Don't know anything about the subspecies, but it's an amazing plant. Beautifully grown and clearly very, very old. Stunning. Right next to Ariocarpus retusus furfuraceus. Smaller, more stressed, clearly grown a little bit more hard, which appeals to my sensibilities. Fantastic. But hey, let's go check out the grand prize winners, see what sort of amazing plants have scooped the show today. I reckon there's going to be some real special stuff. Now this Rebutia hiliosa sunrise cultivar has taken out the champion novice cactus. How fantastic is that? What an absolute beast. And that delicate little flower is the cream on the top. Hang on, we'll do a slow reveal now of the champion open succulent. Have a look at this, set it to music. Wow, Adenia glauca, absolute fat monster of a plant. Also in flower right now, which only makes it far more interesting. But of course, it's the cortex that brings people to check this absolute beast out. Absolutely amazing. Of course, well worth noting that your Adenias, members of the Passifloraceae family, they're all extremely toxic, which to some might put people off. To me, I think that makes them more appealing, personally. Who won the People's Choice? Hey, this plant looks familiar. This well-deserved monstrosity, I reckon, is probably the coolest plant in the show. Absolutely stunning. I just can't get over the colour of those flowers. It's amazing. And maybe you're wondering who won the novice succulent category. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Again, slow reveal. Champion novice succulent goes to me. Oh, how good. Pachypodium saundersii. Straight from the Aridzine greenhouse to the first prize-winning benches of the Cactus and Succulent Society show. Fantastic. I wasn't sure, honestly, in entering this gnarled old plant that it would necessarily do well due to the scarring, but in my opinion that adds to the character of this plant, and clearly the judges agreed with me. Now this is a plant that you might recognise from my huge Cortex plant haul video, came out last year. Wow, I'm so thankful to own this plant, but there is one more plant on the prize winning table that I need to show you. So there's this amazing award that they hand out to the best matched plant and pot, which, as well you can imagine, I find a fantastic initiative because I love matching plants and pots. And hey, let's see who won. Oh, once again, Aridzine goes home a winner with this Pureschia aculeata Godseffiana. Now this plant, honestly, I kid you not, has been growing in a weed-infested black plastic pot up until about 3 days ago, and I was trying to figure out what am I going to bring to the show. And I noticed the amazing spring foliage on this plant. It's like deep red with a hint of yellow. And I thought, oh, this plant ordinarily isn't the most spectacular thing, but that foliage may well just be what gets it over the line as a prize winner. I wasn't expecting anything more than that. I had this amazing Mark Martirez pot just floating around, and I top dressed it with some cool red clay to try and bring out those red tones in the leaves. And here we are, recognised as the best plant pot combo in the whole show. This plant in some parts of the world is regarded as a pest, and yet here it's a prize winner. But why stop at just looking at the cool plants in the show today? I'm going to give you a bit of a taste of what all these amazing vendors behind me are offering up for sale. Let's go check them out. Aren't these clumps of lithops just something else? Honestly, very, very tempting. Almost too hard to resist. The size of them, how big? I mentioned how it's flowering season. Have a look at this. Just off the charts, mammillarias as far as the eye can see. And I'm always harping on about Mark Martirez's amazing pots. Now, he's had a big show. I can tell he's cleared out a lot of his stock, but I thought I'd share with you some of the cool stuff that remains available. And you can get a sense of the variety. I mean, you've got hectic pots that look like rocks. You've got things like this that just speak heavy metal, and this one. And then I'll show you the other side of the store, because have a look over here. Similar sorts of pots done up in different glazes to appeal to a very, very different market. Yeah, these don't appeal to me at all, but you can admire the craftsmanship that's gone into them. They're absolutely remarkable. I mean, have a look at this. That pot is just off the charts. Echeverias. You love echeverias? I'm sure there is an echeveria to suit any taste. Ooh, that's interesting. Little crested one. Hidden in amongst everything. You can always find a little hidden gem when you poke hard enough. But the thing that I think is kind of cool is that Cordex plants are having their moment in the sun. You don't just have echeverias on this table, but you've also got this fantastic Gerodanthus macrorhizis just in amongst everything. You know, why not? Absolutely remarkable. Anything that brings cordiciform plants more boldly into the world, I say bring it on. Oh, hang on a second, what on earth? That is a really weird looking Mammillaria Fred. I don't reckon that's the same Mammillaria boccasana that I've potted up in a skull pot. That's too strange, that's something else. And of course you're wondering, what cool plants did I buy from all these vendors? Well, let me show you exactly what I'm going home with today. Probably more than I probably wanted to. I did buy some cool pots from Mark. Why don't I start there, hey? First of all, we got these pair of really gnarly looking pots. They look, to my eyes, kind of heavy metal. This one, all black and red. How cool is that? And then this one, I don't know, it's got a bit of red, a bit of white, a bit of grey, but it just appeals to my sensibilities that lean towards the grotesque. And then I got an even cooler pot, hang on. I'm always on the hunt for big pots, for big plants. And have a look at this monster. How cool is that? And look at the textures on it. Something special, I promise you, is gonna go into this. But I'm always looking for a way to zhuzh up the greenhouse. So I'm also going home with this beautiful, not a pot, just a little sculpture, little astrophytum, gymnocalycium looking thing. How cool is that? Absolutely love it. But there are plants too, and the variety of plants that I'm going home with blows my mind. Some of these are not the sorts of plants that I would typically be on the lookout for. First of all, how about this little guy? This is a Fuenia palanzii, but it's crested, little crested forms growing throughout the pot. Can't wait to see what they do as they put on a bit of size. Really remarkable. I'll put this one right next to my ordinary form, straight into the greenhouse. Then I've got this Euphorbia sepulta. Now this is a plant that grows in northeastern Africa, very, very arid part of the world. I've actually already got one of these. But the reason this one jumped out and caught my eye is because it's covered in seed pods. Now, I was talking to Clayton at Juicy Plant Company about what pollinated it, because he's only got one clone. We're trying to figure out, is this self-pollinating or is this being crossed probably by insects with something else? And so the mystery, the allure of a mystery is what made me want to buy this. So I'm going to grow these seeds and see what becomes of them. Hopefully something interesting. I got this amazing Aloe somaliensis. Have a look at the variegation patterns on the leaves. It's naturally occurring, and for 12 bucks, it was a plant that I just couldn't leave behind. Really something special. Now this may not look like much at the moment, just a bare stick in a pot of dirt, but this is Adenia repanda, cordiciform plant, which over the summertime this will form a much larger vine, and hopefully under the soil line there is a thick fattened cordex slowly building its size. This one's just a seedling, but they're remarkable plants, and I can't wait to put this amongst all the other Adenias that I've got, because what I do know about Adenias, number one, they hate to grow from seed, and number two, growing from cutting, you don't really get a cordex on them. So anytime I can add an Adenia to the collection is a very exciting moment indeed. Now I got my absolute feast of amazing echeverias over in the show today, and it inspired me. I want something with those amazing colours and those fantastically warty leaves. And so when I saw this double header, too hard to resist. It was coming home with me for sure. Gonna join my very small but growing collection of echeverias that I'm happily learning how to grow with more confidence every single day. Now the tree sedum that I saw in the competition, that was off the charts. I've never seen anything quite like it. And so of course, when it was for sale, a noticeably smaller version, I couldn't help but pick this up as well. I'm really very excited to watch this thing grow, enlarge, and turn into something that is incredibly atypical of what sedums usually are. It was only 15 bucks, how good is that? Also happens to be in flower right now, little bonus. But what plant am I most excited to be bringing home with me today? Well, let me show you. Have a look at this. This, of course, is Lithops leslieii, the cultivar Fred's redhead. This thing is clearly very, very old, clearly very, very well loved, and now I have the incredibly nerve-wracking experience of trying to help it grow for many, many more decades. I reckon I can do it though. Lithops leslieii is noticeably one of the hardiest species of lithops. So if I follow the advice that I put out on this channel, I reckon I'll have a pretty good chance of keeping this one alive and letting this massive clump just continue to get bigger and bigger over the years. What an absolute stunner. Look at those colours. I can't believe this is my plant. This plant is going straight to the top shelf to cap off what's been an amazing day of buying plants and showing plants. How good. Oh my God, can you believe it? I've actually taken home some proper prizes this time. Pretty exciting. Anyway, thank you so much guys for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and of course I will be back next Monday for another episode of Arid Scene. Catch you then.